Hey Mojoholics, I'm your host Rebecca, and in this 15th episode of WatchMojo FAQ, our CEO and executive producer Ashkan Karbasfrooshan joins me to discuss the origins of the WatchMojo logo and how we handle all the rights to all of the clips we use. Hey Mojoholics, welcome to WatchMojo FAQ episode 15. With me, as almost always, is Ash and our new additions of Marty McFly and Doc Brown. Welcome, Ash.
You sound so disappointed. Welcome. How are you guys?
Okay, so before we get to this week's questions, this week we published both Topics, which is Dan's new show, and WatchMojo News. So any thoughts on the first episodes?
Yeah, sure. So since this is actually being recorded on Wednesday and Topics is going to be published later on today, we'll just talk on WatchMojo News. I thought it was fantastic. We did top 10 facts, just 10 facts on ISIS. Overwhelmingly positive feedback. I love seeing the comment from Mass Oreo Killer. Gotta love that name as well. Quote, I can imagine this will become my favorite WatchMojo series. Great work and keep up with the series. End quote. That was upvoted over 100 times. I think, you know, the features, the clips where we do politics will always have some division from the viewers, but the overarching feedback was that it was fantastic and we should keep it up, and that's music to our ears. Okay, so for today, I know we want to cover a lot, so we will touch on Topics next week, again, like we said, because it hasn't aired yet. Unless you want to use the DeLorean to travel.
Hence the prop. Anyway, on to the questions. Last weekend, we published top 10 business logos, and John Lennon, who I'm assuming is not the John Lennon, asked, but seriously, what's the history behind the face WatchMojo, which is our logo? So Mr. X stepped in and said, like this comment if you want Ash to address it. So 165 people like that. So the Mojoholics obviously want to know, what is the history behind the WatchMojo face?
So a few weeks ago, we touched about the origins of the name. You could click on the annotation or link below to get the feedback on that. So today we'll talk about the logo. So basically, picture it, it's 2005. I was working at a company, got acquired. It was time for me to leave, as it happens, and I wanted to start a new company and basically prove myself. So the idea of the smiley face was kind of to connote, I'll get the last laugh, he who laughs last laughs best, and just sort of like proving people wrong. And that's actually why, side note, when WatchMojo launched, the tagline initially was just watch. It had that kind of double connotation. Anyway, so when I was going over the site design and whatnot, and I wrote out the Mojo part of the name, I kind of said, and look, the O's and the J could be a face, you just put a squiggly line underneath. The initial inspiration, I won't lie, was more sinister, you know, not evil, but kind of mischievous smile. I remember College Humor back in the day used to have a logo of a Joker. So yeah, it was meant to be a bit more comic book character-esque. But then when the designer came back, he made it a lot more comical and jovial and cute-ish, and I liked it. I was like, it's fine. You know, I didn't want to change it too much since then. And he also chose the colors. I would have probably gone with more black, gray, and a dark blue. But it stuck, and it's funny because since then, that logo, I mean, we joked by putting it as, like, I guess, a fake #1 on that list, but that logo has been seen, as of this week, 2 billion times on YouTube. Only 40 channels have hit that milestone. If you count everywhere else where we publish, like Yahoo, MSN, Hulu, and other places, it's been seen over 3.5 billion times. And if you count places like malls, gyms, cabs, airports, it's probably been seen over 10 billion times altogether, which does make that logo one of the most seen logos of the last few years that have come out.
That is crazy. In the same video, user 2Fortress4U asks, how does Mojo never get in trouble for showing movie scenes or other copyrighted content like logos? So what gives?
Okay, so that is indeed a very common question. And the truth is, I don't think most channels would ever touch on it. It would be like the elephant in the room, but we're not like that. So I have a prop too, which I'll get to in a second. So our editorial guideline really falls under 3 things. One is explicit permission, the other one is implicit approval, and the third one is reluctant acceptance. What am I talking about? So basically, copyright law works 2 ways. It protects companies who create original content, but it also gives a set of liberties and freedoms and rights to companies that then want to take portions of that and create new works. So in a very strict legal sense, yes, as some of you in the comments have stated, copyright law and fair use law, or fair dealing in Canada and the UK, give us such protections. But that's just a defense. The real true reason why we've been able to do what we do boils down to relationships. When we launched in 2006, nobody knew us. And then in 2007 and 8, as we got bigger, we had record labels, TV networks, movie studios, and video game publishers that would come out to us. And back in the day, this is how long we've been in existence, they would send us media and beg us to feature it in our videos, okay? My inbox, no joke, has over 100 gigs. Why? Because we get all these digital files now by all these rights holders who beg us to create these new videos. So today we work with advertising teams and PR departments to create these videos, but it all boils down to the relationships we have. And most of these, thankfully, most of these rights holders have gone on record to tell us that they support what we do, they love what we do. Now, there is occasionally a random employee in a given legal department who may object and not know that we have these relationships, and they'll send us, say, a note saying, hey, why are you doing this? And that's because they may not know how copyright law works. But more importantly, we're like, hey, Joe, you might want to speak to Shelley in marketing and promotions because they're begging us to do it. And then it all ends there, and we all love and we hug it out, and good times ensue.
It's also worth noting, sorry.
With a nice bottle of 1946 Chateauneuf-du-Pape.
Oh, yeah, that does not. Well, anyway, it's also worth noting that those very same clips end up on the sites of these big media companies.
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic point. So to take it even one step further, when we do Top 10 Simpsons episodes, it's really funny because we get people from Hulu, which is owned partially by News Corp, Fox, they'll email us saying, we love this, we're going to feature it because we have a partnership with them. Or if we do Top 10 Batman scenes, guess what? That's a WB franchise, and we're featured on Roadrunner, The Portal, which belongs to Time Warner, which owns WB. So, you know, I know when someone lands on the channel, they may not know that background and context, but, you know, we are a big media company now that plays by the books, where we always err on the right side of the legal fence, so to speak.
But to be clear, you are not a lawyer.
No, so this is not legal advice. But I mean, I'll just say that it's worth noting that generally speaking, and I respect all lawyers, they get a bad rep. Ultimately, it's always the client's fault when a lawyer has to do bad things. But I will say that contract business lawyers are not necessarily as well versed in copyright as they maybe should be. And then conversely, a copyright lawyer is not necessarily well-versed in practical day-to-day applications. They're just really good at the theory. So in between that, you kind of, you know, get a good sense of what you can do or should do. Again, that Chris Rock expression, just because you could drive with your feet doesn't mean you should. So yeah, I've researched fair use, I've written about it forever. But you know, after 8,000 clips, we've had maybe a handful of incidences where we, you know, talks got heated, and we've always prevailed mainly because we use common sense. And ironically, the only time WatchMojo was ever sued wasn't even for this. It's when going back to the first question we answered, when I left to start WatchMojo, my previous employer felt that I was violating our non-competition. We went to court and we rolled the dice and said we're not going to hire a lawyer for various reasons, repped ourselves, and we destroyed them. Just goes to show that sometimes being a lawyer isn't a good thing. Yeah. But we're all cool now. We all get along.
Not for the faint of heart, though, I imagine.
No, as I say, when I started the company, I had hair like Fabio, and that changes very quickly.
Alrighty then. So that's all for this week. And next week, we will touch on Dan's show topics and discuss some of the end-of-year shows and series that we're planning. So make sure to tune in and tell us what you want to see. Can I flip this like I flip paper once in a while? No, that's not bad. That's all for this week. Thanks for watching. And if you like FAQs, tune in to me and Dan on What's Your Mojo tomorrow.